Fame, riches, and the rush for quick money. Many rappers had it all, only to watch it crumble through careless spending, toxic romances, and endless court battles. From a rapper who once bragged about millions in viral hits but later confessed to a judge he had nothing left, to a legendary lyricist who preached financial wisdom yet lost everything in divorce, these stories show how love and luxury can lead to downfall. Soulja Boy. You know him, you've danced to him, and you definitely cranked that back in 2007. But behind the glitz, success, and social media stunts lies a tale of bad decisions, broken trust, and money gone wrong. Born DeAndre Cortez Way, Soulja Boy was only 17 when he dropped Crank That, Soulja Boy, a song that changed hip-hop forever. It didn't just chart, it started a movement. Long before TikTok or viral trends, MySpace and YouTube turned him into a global phenomenon. Everyone was hitting the Superman dance, and Soulja Boy became an instant icon. But the truth is, he wasn't just another rapper, he was a digital trailblazer, one of the first to turn internet fame into real money. And by 18, he was rolling in millions, signing record deals, releasing albums, and even launching his own gaming console. Yeah, the Soulja game, wild times. Life looked perfect, and Soulja Boy was living large. He flaunted Rolls Royces, rocked Rolexes, and stacked up diamond chains like trophies. Making it rain at strip clubs? Of course. He was the ultimate symbol of young, rich, and reckless energy. But soon, the fast life started catching up. While he was busy flexing on social media and celebrating his success, trouble was quietly building. Extravagant habits, mounting legal issues, and terrible choices stacked against him. Then came Kayla Myers. In 2019, his ex-girlfriend Kayla hit him with a shocking lawsuit that turned his world upside down. She accused him of assault, kidnapping, and holding her at gunpoint during a terrifying 6-hour standoff at his Malibu mansion. According to her claims, Soulja threatened her, tied her up with duct tape, and hit her with a gun. In 2020, a jury sided with Kayla Myers, ordering Soulja Boy to pay nearly $472,000 in damages. And here's where it gets even crazier. When the court demanded payment, Soulja Boy claimed he was flat broke. The same guy dripping in designer gear and cruising in luxury cars said he didn't have a dime. In court, his finances were laid bare. He admitted his accounts were in the negative and that he was struggling just to survive. But the irony, even while claiming poverty, he was still living in a multi-million-dollar mansion, driving 6-figure cars, and flashing $188,000 worth of jewelry. The judge wasn't impressed. In fact, he slammed Soulja Boy with a brutal remark. Someone who supposedly broke might consider downsizing their lifestyle. $225,000 in rent is a lot, even for Los Angeles. Soulja's attorney tried to argue that the flashy image was part of his job as an entertainer, but by then, the damage to his reputation and finances was already done. But the court wasn't buying any of it. The judge even suggested that Soulja Boy sell off some of his luxury assets to cover what he owed. The problem? Even if he sold everything, it still wouldn't be enough to pay the $472,000 he owed Kayla Myers. And that lawsuit was only part of his financial nightmare. Soulja's money problems ran deep. He had a $1 million tax lien hanging over him and had spent years tangled in court cases, from probation violations to cryptocurrency controversies. For someone who once flaunted stacks of cash and million-dollar chains, his claims of being broke came as a shock. Here was a man who had lived like a king, now pleading poverty in front of a judge over a payment that was once pocket change. It was a harsh reality check, proof that fame and fortune can disappear fast when you mix success with bad financial habits. Still, despite the setbacks, reports later surfaced that Soulja managed to pay off the judgment. And within a year, things started turning around. He hit Instagram, flexing his Warner Chappell music royalties, showing off deposits worth nearly $1.05 million. That move was the ultimate comeback flex, especially after all the rumors about him being broke. It looked like Soulja Boy was back in business, dropping new tracks, staying in headlines, and slowly rebuilding his empire. His reckless spending and endless legal issues had nearly destroyed his career, but somehow, he managed to bounce back. Unfortunately, not every rapper was so lucky. Take Nas, for example. His financial troubles came early, and they started with a brutal divorce that cost him a fortune. Before Nas was a hip-hop legend, he was just a kid from Queensbridge, New York, one of the toughest housing projects in America. Surrounded by drugs, crime, and poverty, he found escape in poetry. By 1991, his raw storytelling caught attention when he dropped an unforgettable verse on Live at the Barbecue by Main Source. Record labels came calling, and by 1994, Nas released his debut album, Illmatic, an instant classic that changed rap forever. His personal life grew complicated, especially with Carmen Bryan, the mother of his daughter Destiny Jones, born in 1994, the same year Illmatic dropped. Their relationship soured as Nas's career soared, and Carmen's later admission of cheating with Jay-Z only added fuel to one of hip-hop's most infamous rivalries.
I had a relationship with Jay-Z, but the thing about Jay-Z and I, we were friends before anything.
If all that wasn't messy enough, Carmen later released a tell-all book spilling details about her relationships with both Nas and Jay-Z, adding even more fuel to their infamous feud. But drama aside, there was one thing she didn't need a book deal for: Nas's child support checks. Raising a daughter as a single mother meant Nas was legally bound to pay up, and it wasn't cheap. The exact figures were never made public, but given his superstar income, the payments were significant, and Carmen made sure she received every dollar. Still, if Nas thought supporting one child was expensive, he had no clue what awaited him next. Fast forward to 2002, and Nas crosses paths with Khalees Rogers, the Harlem-born singer behind hits like Milkshake and Bossy. Their chemistry was instant, and by 2005, the two tied the knot. For a while, they were hip-hop royalty: Nas, the poetic rap legend, and Khalees, the confident R&B powerhouse. But behind the glamorous image was chaos. Their marriage was riddled with fights, accusations, and emotional warfare. Khalees would later claim Nas was physically abusive, controlling, and that their relationship left her deeply traumatized. Nas, however, told a very different story, accusing Khalees of manipulation, emotional abuse, and exploiting him when he was at his lowest. The breaking point came in 2009, when Khalees, pregnant with their son Knight Jones, filed for divorce, saying she had to protect herself and her unborn child. And that's when the real damage began: financial damage. Celebrity divorces are never cheap, but Nas's split was brutal. When the court ruled in Khalees' favor, he was ordered to pay over $300,000 in back child and spousal support. Since he couldn't cover the lump sum, his monthly payment was set at a staggering $50,000. That's right, 50 grand every month, just to maintain Khalees' lifestyle. His lawyers eventually negotiated it down to $10,000 a month, but by then, the financial bleeding had already begun. Nas had already paid hundreds of thousands he'd never recover. But just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, they did. While he was juggling child support and court battles, the IRS came knocking. In 2012, Nas was hit with a massive $6 million tax bill. And here's the thing: Uncle Sam doesn't care about your divorce drama. If you owe money, they're coming for it. On top of the IRS debt, the state of Georgia claimed Nas owed another $1 million in back taxes. Between child support, alimony, and tax bills, he was drowning. To stay afloat, Nas was forced to liquidate assets, sell off properties, and cut expenses. By the end of 2012, even his house, the one he'd bought with Khalees for over $500,000, was foreclosed and taken by the bank. From millionaire rapper to financial rock bottom, Nas's downfall was one of hip-hop's most shocking collapses. But true legends don't stay down forever. Instead of giving up, Nas made one of the smartest business moves of his life. He launched Queensbridge Venture Partners, a tech-focused investment firm. That single decision changed everything. Nas invested early in companies like Coinbase, Lyft, and Ring, turning his remaining savings into millions. At the same time, he refocused on music, releasing albums, and touring worldwide. After years of reckless spending and a devastating divorce, Nas had finally learned the value of smart money moves, a lesson that many rappers never do. When it comes to women and wealth, few stories are as complicated as The Game's. One of the West Coast's most iconic rap figures, The Game rose from a Compton prodigy under Dr. Dre's wing to the man who helped revive gangster rap in the mid-2000s. With classic albums like The Documentary and Doctor's Advocate, he built his name as one of hip-hop's hardest-hitting lyricists. And when it came to money, The Game had no problem showing it off. In 2016, he made headlines, not for his music, but for accidentally exposing just how rich he really was. It all started with a generous move. The Game pledged $500,000 to help the people of Flint, Michigan, during their water crisis. To prove his donation was real, he posted a screenshot of his wire transfer to Avita Water. But there was one small problem: he forgot to blur out his bank balance. The screenshot showed a whopping $13 million sitting in his account. Fans were stunned. The Game had been in the business for over a decade, but no one realized he was sitting on that kind of fortune. And in true Game fashion, he didn't waste a chance to stir things up. He publicly called out big-name celebrities like Madonna and Jimmy Fallon, mocking their $10,000 donations and calling them cute but not enough. At that moment, The Game was on top of the world, rich, respected, and still running the rap game. But fast forward to 2024, and things couldn't look more different. The question is, how did a man with millions in the bank end up struggling to keep his house? It all started with a lawsuit that simply wouldn't die. Back in 2015, Priscilla Rainey, a contestant from The Game's VH1 reality show She's Got Game, filed a sexual assault lawsuit against him. She claimed he had groped her inappropriately during filming. In 2016, a judge ruled in her favor, ordering The Game to pay $7.1 million in damages. Instead of paying, he did what many celebrities try: he ignored it. For years, The Game refused to pay the settlement, skipped court dates, and used every legal trick to delay the case. But eventually, the courts ran out of patience. By 2024, U.S. District Judge Mark C. Scarsai ruled that enough was enough, authorizing the seizure of the game's assets, including his luxurious Calabasas mansion, to finally cover the judgment. Losing a home in one of Los Angeles' most elite neighborhoods wasn't just a financial hit, it was a blow to his entire image. The game had built his reputation on power, status, and street dominance, and now he was being forced to sell his property like a struggling rookie. And that wasn't his only problem. Reports surfaced that he'd lost more than $100,000 in a car burglary, adding to an already growing pile of financial stress. Legal fees, asset seizures, and mounting losses were hitting him all at once. When it rains, it pours, and for the game, the storm wasn't letting up. But just when things couldn't get any more chaotic, new rumors began to circulate. According to multiple reports, as the financial pressure mounted, the game may have turned to some questionable new ventures to keep the cash flowing, a desperate attempt to stay afloat as his empire began to crumble. Soon after, reports began circulating that up-and-coming rappers were receiving DMs from the game's team, offering them a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a feature on his next mixtape for a fee ranging between $500 and $1,000. At first, it sounded like a dream come true. Who wouldn't want a collaboration with a West Coast legend? But there was a major catch. Instead of being featured on the game's verified SoundCloud, the tracks were uploaded to random, low-traffic accounts with almost no followers or exposure. Even worse, the game wasn't promoting the songs on his social media, and in most cases, he didn't even rap on them. Aspiring artists soon realized they had been misled. What they thought was a legitimate feature turned out to be a paid illusion. They expected a career-changing cosign, but ended up with empty promises and wasted money. As the backlash grew, fans and fellow rappers accused the game of scamming struggling artists. Rather than addressing the controversy directly, he posted screenshots of messages from supposedly satisfied customers thanking him for the opportunity. But let's be honest, screenshots can be selective, and with that $7 million lawsuit still hanging over him, few were convinced. With his mansion on the line, reputation in question, and finances dwindling, the game found himself backed into a corner. Unlike other rappers who reinvented themselves through smart investments or business ventures, he hadn't built any major income outside of music. Without a clear plan to rebuild, his career and his fortune stood on shaky ground. If things don't turn around soon, he could be staring down a full-blown financial collapse. The game's legal battles may have cost him millions, but his story is far from the worst. DMX's downfall, fueled by addiction, mismanagement, and endless child support, stands as one of hip-hop's most tragic financial cautionary tales. Few rappers in history embodied raw energy and emotion like DMX. His growling delivery, gritty lyrics, and powerful stage presence made him a true icon. A man whose music spoke for the streets. When his debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, dropped in 1998, it exploded, selling over 250,000 copies in its first week and eventually topping 5 million worldwide. DMX instantly became a force the industry couldn't ignore. And that was only the beginning. Over the years, DMX released 7 studio albums, sold more than 70 million records globally, earned 3 Grammy nominations, an American Music Award, and even built a successful film career. By all accounts, he should have been financially secure for life. But as history often proves, earning money isn't the problem, keeping it is. Despite making tens of millions, DMX's reckless spending, frequent arrests, and lifelong battle with addiction took everything from him. Born Earl Simmons, he grew up amid abuse, neglect, and chaos. The streets became his survival ground, and even after fame arrived, his demons never left. Substance abuse shadowed his entire career. Financial discipline was never his strength. He lived extravagantly but ignored critical responsibilities, especially his child support obligations. DMX fathered 15 children with multiple women, each depending on him for financial support. His marriage to Tashara Simmons eventually collapsed under the pressure of infidelity and numerous affairs, marking the start of his financial spiral. By the time the couple appeared on VH1's Couples Therapy in 2012, Tashara had already endured years of emotional pain caused by DMX's behavior and his children outside their marriage. In an interview with Essence, she revealed, "I still feel guilty about the divorce, even after everything X put me through, because I took my vows seriously. But there comes a time when you've given everything you can, and it's just time to let go." Unfortunately, letting go didn't end DMX's financial misery. By 2015, he was drowning in debt, owing over $400,000 in unpaid child support. That same year, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail, though he served only 2. Later, he was arrested again, this time for failing to pay $10,000 a month to Tashara. In court, DMX pleaded for leniency, explaining that he needed time to rebuild his music career and earn an income. "It's not like I can hide," he began, hoping for one last chance to turn his life around. "All I've got left is my name and my reputation," DMX told the judge, a line that summed up just how far he had fallen. The court showed mercy, releasing him without bail, but it was clear his financial nightmare wasn't ending anytime soon. By 2011, Things had gotten so bad that DMX filed for bankruptcy. Court documents revealed he had roughly $50,000 in assets and owed anywhere from $1 million to $10 million in debt. Then came another devastating blow. In 2017, federal prosecutors charged him with 14 counts of tax evasion, accusing him of concealing millions in income from the IRS. Investigators said he used fake bank accounts and failed to pay taxes on nearly $2 million in earnings. The result? A one-year prison sentence. When he was released in early 2019, his tax debt had grown to more than $2.3 million. And that wasn't his only problem. Over the years, DMX faced repeated arrests for everything from drug possession and reckless driving to weapons charges and probation violations. Each run-in with the law cost him more money, more opportunities, and more stability. By the time he passed away in 2021, his finances were in complete ruin. At the time of his death, DMX's net worth was estimated at negative $1 million, a tragic end for a man who once made millions from music and movies. Decades of poor management, mounting child support, and endless legal battles had wiped out his fortune. Yet, despite all that, DMX's story isn't defined by money. His music represented pain, struggle, and redemption in their purest form. He may have died broke, but his influence on hip-hop remains priceless. His voice, his honesty, and his raw emotion made him one of the most authentic rappers to ever touch a mic. Still, his downfall serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly success can vanish when discipline is missing. While DMX's troubles came from years of bad decisions, another young star, YK Osiris, managed to burn through his fortune in record time by chasing the illusion of fame and luxury. When YK Osiris burst onto the scene in 2019 with his breakout hit Worth It, he looked like the next big thing in R&B. The Jacksonville native was young, talented, and suddenly surrounded by fame, money, and major cosigns from the industry's biggest names. He flaunted expensive cars, designer outfits, and diamond jewelry like he'd been rich his whole life. But behind all that flash was a harsh reality. YK Osiris wasn't building wealth, he was destroying it. His obsession with flexing, impressing women, and maintaining a fake image drained his accounts faster than he could refill them. For him, success wasn't about stability, it was about appearances. He wanted to look like Drake, Lil Baby, or Young Thug, even if his bank balance said otherwise. So he spent recklessly, designer fits he only wore once, flashy jewelry, luxury vacations, and constant partying. But the truth was simple, the income didn't match the lifestyle. Instead of investing in his music career, YK Osiris spent everything trying to impress women. He bought designer handbags, heels, and jewelry he couldn't afford, treating every relationship like an Instagram highlight reel. He took women to the most exclusive restaurants and resorts, always playing the role of the high roller. But when the cash dried up, the affection disappeared too. Even YK admitted he blew through his first big check almost immediately after Worth It took off. With six-figure performance fees and feature money coming in, he lived like a superstar, without the savings of one. He famously gave his mom $250,000, a kind-hearted gesture but a financially reckless move for someone new to money. Then came the $300,000 splurge on designer clothes, most of which he wore only once. And if that wasn't enough, he paid $400 per haircut, sometimes twice a week, spending tens of thousands just on grooming. In his own words, when you don't have money, you don't think about it. But once you get it, you start buying everything. That mindset proved costly. Desperate to prove he belonged among hip-hop's elite, YK Osiris turned to gambling and extravagant flexing. He lost thousands betting with stars like Drake, Lil Baby, and Young Thug, debts that became public embarrassments. Drake joked that YK had to sing his debt away after owing him $60,000, while French Montana roasted him at a party for unpaid money. Even when Osiris claimed to be debt-free on Instagram, literally spelling it out with stacks of cash, he later remembered he still owed Young Thug. Then came the $190,000 tax bill from the IRS, the final blow that exposed the fragile illusion. The cars, the women, the luxury lifestyle, it was all built on sand. YK Osiris learned the hard way that money might attract people, but it doesn't make them stay. When the fame faded and the money ran out, so did the people around him. Fake friends vanished, the women stopped answering, and reality hit hard. At just 23, YK Osiris became another cautionary tale, proof that clout without control leads straight to bankruptcy. His downfall was fueled by impulsive spending, gambling debts, and the pressure to keep up appearances. But if YK Osiris's story was about financial immaturity, Mystikal's collapse came from something darker, a pattern of criminal behavior that destroyed both his career and his finances. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Mystikal was unstoppable. Hits like Shake Ya Ass and Danger dominated the charts, and his 2000 album Let's Get Ready went double platinum. With Grammy nominations, major tours, and endorsement deals, Mystikal was living the dream: luxury cars, massive homes, and all the trappings of rap superstardom. But behind the success, his personal life was spiraling. In 2003, everything came crashing down. After accusing his hairstylist of stealing $80,000, Mystical made a catastrophic decision. Instead of handling it legally, he and his bodyguards forced her into sexual acts, which they filmed. That one decision ended his career. He pled guilty and received a 6-year prison sentence, instantly destroying his reputation and his fortune. While he was behind bars, his money disappeared. Legal fees, settlements, and years of no income wiped him out. By the time he was released in 2010, Mystical was a shadow of his former self, no longer the millionaire hitmaker he once was. After prison, Mystical tried to rebuild. He signed with Cash Money Records and attempted a comeback, but the industry had moved on. His name was tainted, and his reckless behavior continued to haunt him. In 2016, he was accused again, this time of rape and kidnapping, spending 18 months in jail before charges were dropped for lack of evidence. But the damage was done. Labels and promoters stayed away, and his finances collapsed completely. Then in 2022, Mystical's downfall reached its lowest point. He was arrested once more, charged with first-degree rape, domestic abuse, and robbery after allegedly assaulting and choking a woman at his home. The disturbing details ended any remaining chance of redemption. Years of lawsuits, legal fees, and lost opportunities left him millions in debt with no stable income. From platinum-selling rapper to a bankrupt ex-star facing life in prison, Mystical became another tragic example of wasted potential and self-destruction.